Dr. Eleanor Rodriguez was having the worst day of her career. The coffee machine broke. Her computer crashed twice. And now the massive radio telescope was picking up signals that made absolutely no sense. She rubbed her tired eyes and looked at the screen again, hoping the strange patterns would magically turn into normal space noise. They didn't. For 3 hours, Elena stared at data that shouldn't exist. The signals were too organized, too complex, too intentional. After 20 years of searching for signs of alien life, she thought she'd know what to look for. This wasn't it. This was like finding a symphony playing in the static between radio stations. Her hand shook as she ran the signal through every computer program they had. Each test gave the same impossible result. This was artificial, intelligent, and coming from just outside our solar system. Elena picked up her phone 3 times before finally calling her supervisor. Dr. Chen, you need to get down here right now. Within 6 hours, the small observatory became the most important place on Earth. Scientists, military officials, and government representatives crowded into the control room, all staring at Elena's computer screen like it might explode. The signal kept repeating every 47 minutes, each time exactly the same. Dr. James Walker, the team's linguistics expert, worked frantically with quantum computers trying to decode the message. The breakthrough came at 3 a.m. when the artificial intelligence finally found a pattern. The message wasn't in any Earth language, but it followed mathematical principles that any intelligent species would understand. When the translation appeared on screen, the room went completely silent. Help us. We run from those who destroy worlds. We ask for safe place. We will pay for protection with knowledge. Please answer. Elena felt like she might throw up. This was really happening. Real aliens were asking Earth for help. And somehow she was in the middle of it. The message repeated one more time, then stopped. In its place came something new, coordinates pointing to a location near Jupiter. The world's most powerful telescopes turned toward those coordinates. What they found changed everything humanity thought about the universe. A ship hung in space, easily the size of Manhattan, but shaped like nothing humans had ever built. It looked organic, like it had been grown rather than constructed, with smooth curves and surfaces that seemed to shift and change as they watched. President Collins addressed the world that evening. My fellow humans, we are no longer alone in the universe. The aliens sent another message 2 days later, this time with basic instructions for communication. They called themselves the Kythera, and their ship would reach Earth's orbit in 72 hours. They were refugees, they explained, fleeing from something they called the Convergence, an expanding empire that consumed entire civilizations. Elena found herself appointed as Earth's primary contact with the Kythera. Nobody really knew what qualifications someone needed to talk to aliens, but she had discovered them, so the job was hers. She spent those 3 days cramming every book about first contact protocols that science fiction writers had ever imagined. When the Kythera ship arrived, it was nothing like the movies. No dramatic entrance, no laser shows or mystical energy fields. It just appeared one morning, hanging silently above the Pacific Ocean like it had always been there. The ship's surface reflected sunlight in impossible ways, creating patterns that hurt to look at directly. The first Kythera to visit Earth came down in a small craft that looked more like a soap bubble than a spaceship. Elena waited at the specially prepared landing site in Nevada, wearing what scientists had decided was appropriate first contact attire, a simple blue suit that wouldn't seem threatening to alien sensibilities. When the craft opened, Elena's first thought was that the aliens looked like living crystals. The Kythera stood about 7 feet tall, with translucent bodies that seemed to be made of some kind of organic glass. Light moved through them in slow waves, and their faces had features that were almost human but somehow more delicate, more refined. The first Kythera to step onto Earth's soil introduced himself as Commander Zethover. He spoke through a small device that translated his thoughts into English. His voice sounded like wind chimes mixed with distant music. We are grateful beyond words for your welcome, Zethover said. We did not expect to find kindness in this part of the galaxy. Elena tried to think of something profound to say, something that would go down in history books. Instead, she said, "Would you like some water?" The trip must have been long. Zithover's crystalline features shifted in what might have been a smile. "You offer hospitality before learning if we are dangerous. This is unexpected." Over the following days, Elena learned that the Kithra were refugees from a war they never wanted to fight. Their homeworld, Kithmara, had been a paradise of crystal cities and floating gardens where violence was almost unknown. They had achieved faster-than-light travel not through military research, but through pure scientific curiosity about the universe. The Convergence had arrived at Kithmara like a plague. They didn't want the planet's resources or strategic location. They wanted the Kithra themselves to add their knowledge and abilities to the Convergence's growing collection of absorbed civilizations. When the Kithra refused to surrender their independence, the Convergence began systematically destroying their world. "We are not warriors," Zithover explained during one of their daily meetings. "Our people have known peace for over 10,000 years. We had no armies, no weapons designed for battle. When the Convergence attacked, we could only run." Elena found the Kithra fascinating but deeply puzzling. They possessed technology that seemed like magic to human scientists. They could manipulate matter at the molecular level, communicate telepathically across vast distances, and their ships could travel between stars in days rather than years. Yet they seemed almost helplessly fragile. During the first week, Elena watched a Kithra engineer accidentally cut himself on a piece of paper while examining human documents. The tiny wound nearly proved fatal. The alien's crystalline body began developing cracks that spread outward from the cut, like a broken window. It took their advanced medical technology 20 minutes to stabilize him. Dr. Williams, the team's medical officer, was amazed by Kithra physiology. "They're incredibly sophisticated," he told Elena after examining several volunteers. "Their bodies are like living computers, perfectly optimized for their environment, but they have no redundancy, no backup systems. If something goes wrong, they can't adapt." The Kithra were equally fascinated by humans, but for different reasons. Zithover watched Elena drink hot coffee with the kind of wonder usually reserved for magic tricks. The liquid you consume would cause severe internal damage to any Kithra. He said, "Yet you drink it for pleasure. Your tolerance for harmful substances is remarkable." Elena laughed. "It's just coffee. Pretty mild stuff, actually." "Mild?" Zithover's translator struggled with the concept. "The temperature alone would require emergency medical intervention. For my people, and the chemical compounds, how do you process such toxins?" As the weeks passed, Elena began to understand that the cultural exchange was revealing something unexpected. The Kithra came from what they described as an ideal world. Stable climate, abundant resources, no predators, no natural disasters. They had evolved in a perfect environment and used their technology to maintain that perfection. As they expanded into space, Earth, by contrast, was what the Kithra politely called a challenging environment. When Elena showed them footage of hurricanes, earthquakes, and winter storms, Zithover's translation device kept defaulting to terms like extinction event and unsurvivable catastrophe. "Your people experience these conditions regularly?" he asked, watching a video of humans skiing down a mountain. "Sure, it's recreational," Elena said. "Some people do it for fun." Zithover was quiet for a long time. When he finally spoke, his voice carried a tone Elena had never heard before, something like a mix with disbelief. "We may have made an error in our calculations," he said slowly. "We sought refuge on what our sensors indicated was a marginally habitable world. We are beginning to suspect that we have instead found something far more remarkable." Elena was about to ask what he meant when alarms began blaring throughout the facility. Dr. Chen's voice crackled over the intercom, tight with controlled panic. "Elena, get to the command center immediately. We've got massive ships appearing at the edge of the solar system. The Convergence has found us." Elena's heart pounded as she ran through the corridors toward the command center. 3 months had passed since the Kithra arrived, and she had started to hope that maybe the Convergence wouldn't find them. Maybe Earth was too far Away, too, hidden in the galaxy's outer arm. Maybe they were safe. She was wrong. The command center buzzed with activity. Dozens of screens showed telescope feeds from around the world, all focused on the same terrifying sight. Massive ships hung at the edge of the solar system like dark clouds against the stars. Even from billions of miles away, their size was obvious. Each one looked bigger than anything humans had ever built. How many? Elena asked Dr. Chen, who stood staring at the main display with his face pale. 43 confirmed vessels, Chen replied without looking away, and they're still arriving. Our telescopes can barely make sense of what we're seeing. These ships are enormous. General Patricia Hayes, the Pentagon's liaison to the Alien Contact Project, pointed at the largest ship on screen. That one's the size of Texas. How do we even fight something like that? Elena looked for Zethover and found him in the corner, his crystalline body flickering with rapid light patterns. She had learned this meant he was communicating with his ship through their telepathic network. His usual calm demeanor was gone, replaced by something that looked like pure terror. Zethover, what can you tell us about those ships? The Kithra. Commander turned toward her, his translation device crackling with static before finding his voice. The flagship belongs to Admiral Thrakmer. He has never failed to conquer a world. His fleet has absorbed over 100 civilizations in the past century. Dr. Williams, who had been studying Kithra biology, looked confused. Absorbed? What does that mean exactly? Zethover asked light patterns dim. The convergence does not destroy civilizations. They integrate them. They study each species, catalog their abilities, and then force them to join the collective. Every world they conquer adds to their knowledge and power. Elena felt sick. So they want to add humans to their collection, and the Kithra, Zethover confirmed, they followed us here not for your world's resources, but for what they see as two prizes instead of one. Before anyone could respond, every communication device in the room activated at once. Televisions, radios, cell phones, and computer speakers all began broadcasting the same message in perfect English. The voice was deep and mechanical, like a computer trying to sound human but not quite getting it right. Inhabitants of the third planet, I'm Admiral Thrakmer of the Convergence Fleet. You harbor refugees who belong to our collective. Surrender them immediately, and your world will be granted the honor of peaceful integration. Resist, and we will be forced to implement pacification protocols. The message, repeated in dozens of languages before cutting off, the command center fell silent except for the hum of computers and the distant sound of jets scrambling from military bases around the world. General Hayes was the first to speak. Peaceful integration. That doesn't sound very peaceful. Elena turned to Zethover. What happens during pacification? The Kithra's body went completely dark for a moment before flickering back to life. They disable all technology on the planet. Then they land troops to round up survivors. Those who resist are neutralized. Those who surrender are processed for integration. Processed? Dr. Chen asked. Mental conditioning. They remove individual will and replace it with loyalty to the convergence. It is not death. But it is not life as you would understand it. General Hayes pulled out her phone and started making calls. Within minutes, she was connected to the Pentagon, the White House, and military commanders around the globe. Elena listened to fragments of urgent conversations about evacuation procedures, nuclear options, and last-ditch defense plans. Dr. Chen pulled Elena aside. Our satellites are tracking the convergence ships. They're moving slowly but steadily toward Earth. At their current speed, they'll reach us in 6 days. Elena looked back at the screens showing the alien fleet. What do we know about their capabilities? From what Zethover has told us, they're centuries ahead of us technologically. Their weapons can crack planets. Their shields can deflect nuclear missiles, and their troops are genetically enhanced for combat. On paper, we don't stand a chance. Elena spent the next hour reviewing everything they had learned about the convergence from Kithra. Databases. The information was depressing. The convergence had conquered galaxy after galaxy, absorbing species that were far more advanced than humans. They had faced civilizations with energy weapons, force fields, and starships that could destroy solar Systems, every single one had fallen. What bothered Elena most was how easy it seemed to be for them. Most civilizations surrendered after the first demonstration of convergence firepower. Those that resisted rarely lasted more than a few days. The convergence had perfected the art of conquest over millions of years. But as Elena dug deeper into the files, she noticed something strange. Almost every species the convergence had conquered shared certain characteristics. They were technologically advanced, but they came from stable, peaceful worlds. They had evolved beyond physical conflict, relying on technology and diplomacy. To solve problems, Zethover, Elena called out, "Can you show me information about convergence ground troops?" The Kithara accessed his ship's database and projected holographic images in the air. Elena studied the alien soldiers, noting their sleek armor and advanced weapons. They looked impressive, but something felt off. "Where do these soldiers come from?" she asked. "They are bred and trained on convergence core worlds," Zethover explained. "Perfect environments with controlled atmosphere, temperature, and gravity. They are enhanced for maximum efficiency in standard combat scenarios." Elena's mind started working. Standard combat scenarios. What does that mean? Ship-to-ship battles, attacks on space stations, ground assaults on developed worlds with infrastructure and regular weather patterns. Dr. Williams had been listening to the conversation. So they've never fought on a world like Earth? Zethover's translation device paused for a long moment. "I do not understand the question. All inhabited worlds maintain controlled environments. Why would intelligent beings choose to live in chaos?" Elena and Dr. Williams exchanged glances. Elena pulled up Earth's weather data on her tablet and showed it to Zethover. "This is what our planet was like yesterday. Temperature variations of 60 degrees between different regions. Storms with winds over 100 miles per hour. Earthquakes, floods, and blizzards happening simultaneously in different locations." Zethover studied the data with growing confusion. "This cannot be accurate. No civilization would tolerate such instability. We don't just tolerate it," Dr. Williams said with a growing smile. "We live in it every day. Our soldiers train in deserts, jungles, Arctic conditions, and mountain ranges. We fight battles during hurricanes and blizzards." Elena felt a spark of hope for the first time since the convergence. Ships appeared, Zethover, in all your databases about convergence conquests. Have they ever fought on a world with unstable environmental conditions? The Kithara was quiet for several minutes as he searched through vast amounts of data. When he finally spoke, his voice carried a note of surprise. "No. Every conquered world maintained stable, controlled environments. The convergence has never encountered a species that deliberately inhabits what their classification system terms disaster zones." General Hayes had finished her phone calls and rejoined the group. "What are you thinking, Elena?" Elena looked at the screen showing Earth's varied landscapes, deserts, where temperatures reached 120 degrees, tundra where humans survived in -40-degree weather, jungles teeming with dangerous wildlife, and mountains where the air was too thin for most creatures to breathe. "I think we might have an advantage nobody's considering," Elena said. "The convergence has spent millions of years perfecting how to conquer civilizations that live in paradise. But Earth isn't paradise. Earth is what happens when evolution gets really, really difficult." General Hayes raised an eyebrow. "You're suggesting we fight them here? On the surface?" "I'm suggesting that maybe, for the first time in their history, the convergence is about to discover what it's like to fight a species that considers extreme weather just another Tuesday." Zethover's light patterns shifted to what Elena had learned. Indicated deep thought. "You believe your environmental adaptation provides tactical advantages?" Elena nodded. "I think we're about to find out just how tough humans really are compared to the rest of the galaxy." The next morning brought a new transmission from Admiral Thrakmer. This time, his mechanical voice carried an edge of impatience. "You have had sufficient time to consider our generous offer. Surrender the refugees and submit to integration, or face the consequences. You have 48 hours to comply." Elena stared at the screen showing the approaching convergence fleet and made a decision that would change everything. "General Hayes, I think it's time to show the galaxy what a Death World species looks like when someone threatens their home. Admiral Thrakmer stared at the blue planet below and felt something he hadn't experienced. In 3 centuries of conquest, confusion, his tactical computers had analyzed this world dozens of times, and each scan produced the same bewildering results. The planet's environmental conditions were so unstable that it should barely support life. Yet somehow it hosted not one but 2 intelligent species. Begin the invasion, he commanded from the bridge of his flagship. Deploy ground forces to all major population centers. Standard pacification protocols. What happened next would be remembered as the most disastrous opening day in Convergence military history. The first wave of Convergence troops landed in 12 different locations across Earth. Admiral Thrakmer had chosen these sites carefully based on his analysis of human civilization. Major cities, military bases, and government centers. What his computers hadn't told him was that humans had built their civilization in places that would challenge even the most advanced species in the galaxy. Colonel Jake Morrison watched the alien ships descend through the humid air above the Amazon rainforest. His special operations team had been positioned here for 2 days, waiting in conditions that would have required full environmental suits for most galactic species. The aliens probably expected to find a standard urban center. Instead, they were landing in one of Earth's most hostile environments. The first Convergence soldiers to exit their ships moved with mechanical precision. Their armor gleamed silver, and their weapons hummed with energy that could punch through tank armor. But within minutes of stepping onto the forest floor, problems began. They're having trouble with the humidity, Morrison radioed to his team. Through his binoculars, he watched alien soldiers struggling as moisture condensed inside their helmet visors. Their energy weapons, designed for the clean vacuum of space combat, began overheating in the thick, moisture-laden air. Morrison smiled grimly. "Welcome to Earth, boys, 2,000 miles away." Captain Lisa Rodriguez faced a different challenge in the Sahara Desert. The Convergence had expected to secure this region within hours, but their tactical computers hadn't accounted for a sandstorm that had been building for 3 days. As alien troops tried to establish a foothold, winds reaching 90 miles per hour sandblasted their equipment and reduced visibility to 0. Rodriguez and her desert warfare specialists moved through the storm like ghosts. They had trained in these conditions for years, using techniques passed down from soldiers who had fought in desert environments for generations. The aliens, meanwhile, struggled to maintain formation as sand clogged their sophisticated equipment. "Their suits aren't designed for this," Rodriguez reported over the radio. "The sand is getting into everything. Their communication systems are failing." In Siberia, Lieutenant Commander Alex Chen watched Convergence forces attempt to establish a base in temperatures that dropped to -30 degrees Fahrenheit. The aliens had landed during what humans considered normal winter weather, but their environmental systems couldn't cope with the extreme cold. Chen's Arctic Warfare Unit had been living in these conditions for weeks as part of their regular training rotation. They watched through thermal scopes as alien soldiers moved sluggishly, their enhanced reflexes slowed by the cold that their technology couldn't fully compensate for. "They're moving like they're underwater," Chen observed. "Their equipment is designed for ship conditions, not this." The most dramatic failure occurred in the Rocky Mountains, where Major David Kim's Mountain Warfare Unit encountered Convergence troops trying to secure a position at 10,000 feet elevation. The aliens had not anticipated how altitude would affect their physiology and equipment. Kim watched through his scope as alien soldiers began showing signs of severe distress. Their enhanced metabolisms, designed for perfect ship environments, couldn't adapt to the thin air. Several collapsed within the first hour, forcing their comrades to establish emergency medical stations. "They can't breathe," Kim reported. In amazement, their enhancement makes them more efficient, but it also makes them more dependent on perfect conditions. Back at the command center, Eleanor coordinated with field commanders around the world, the reports coming in painted and impossible. Picture: the most advanced military force in galactic history was being defeated not by human weapons, but by Earth's weather. Dr. Williams had been monitoring Convergence biological signs through captured equipment, their enhancement process optimized. Then, for ideal conditions, he explained to Elena. But optimization comes at a cost. They lost the ability to adapt. Elena studied the global tactical display. Red markers showed Convergence landing sites, but instead of the expected rapid advance, the alien forces were either stalled or retreating to their ships. They're trying to call for orbital support, General Hayes reported, but something's interfering with their communications. Elena looked at Zethover, who had been unusually quiet during the morning's events. What's wrong with their communications? The Kithra's light patterns flickered uncertainly. I believe your planet's magnetic field is causing interference. Our sensors detected unusual electromagnetic activity, but we adapted our systems. The Convergence uses different technology. You mean Earth's natural magnetic field is jamming their equipment? Not jamming, Zethover corrected. Disrupting. Their communication systems assume a stable, predictable electromagnetic environment. Your planet's field fluctuates in ways that no civilized world would tolerate. Elena almost laughed. Even Earth's magnetic field was working against the invaders. The situation became clear as reports continued flowing in. Convergence forces had landed expecting to face a technologically inferior enemy on a controlled battlefield. Instead, they found themselves fighting a planet that seemed designed to kill anything that hadn't evolved there. In the Amazon, alien soldiers discovered that their energy weapons had limited effectiveness against the dense vegetation. The moisture in the air diffused their energy beams, while human forces used the jungle canopy for cover and concealment. Every tree, vine, and stream became a defensive advantage for the humans. Colonel Morrison's team struck fast and vanished into green shadows that alien sensors couldn't penetrate. They didn't need to destroy the invaders. They just needed to survive longer than the aliens could function in the humidity in the desert. Captain Rodriguez's forces used dust storms and heat mirages to confuse alien targeting systems. The Convergent soldiers, accustomed to fighting in climate-controlled environments, struggled with equipment failures as sand infiltrated their gear, and extreme temperatures stressed their systems beyond design limits. The Arctic proved even more challenging for the invaders. Lieutenant Commander Chen reported that alien vehicles couldn't maintain traction on ice. Their joints seized in the cold, and their enhanced soldiers moved with painful slowness as their optimized bodies struggled to function in sub-zero temperatures. But it was in the mountains where the Convergence faced their most serious defeat. Major Kim's forces didn't even need to engage directly. The altitude alone incapacitated half the alien landing force. Those who remained functional moved so slowly that human soldiers could literally walk away from combat and reposition at will. Elena realized they were witnessing something unprecedented in galactic history. The Convergence had built their empire by conquering species that lived in paradise. They had never encountered a civilization that considered extreme weather. Just another day at the office. Admiral Thrakmer is requesting reinforcements, General Hayes announced. His own forces are asking for help against what they're classifying as environmental hazards. Elena looked at the tactical display showing Convergence forces huddled in their landing ships, unable to advance more than a few miles from their perfectly controlled environments. Dr. Williams shook his head in amazement. We're not beating them with superior technology or tactics. We're beating them because we're used to living in hell. And they're not. Zethover's light patterns brightened with what Elena recognized as excitement. You understand now why we were confused by your planet's classification. What you call normal weather reads as extinction-level disaster in our databases. Elena nodded, finally understanding what made humanity unique in the galaxy. Other species had conquered their environments through technology. Humans had been conquered by their environment and learned to love it. Send a message to Admiral Thrakmer. Elena told General Hayes. Tell him that if he wants to take Earth, he's welcome to try. But he should know that what he's experienced so far, this is us being gentle. We haven't even started fighting yet. As if to emphasize her point, satellite images showed a massive hurricane forming in the Atlantic, heading directly toward one of the largest Convergence landing sites. The storm would arrive in 18 hours with winds reaching 150 miles per hour. Elena smiled as she watched the weather report. For the first time since the convergence arrived, she felt genuinely optimistic about humanity's chances. After all, humans were the only species in the galaxy that threw parties during natural disasters and called them hurricane parties. The aliens were about to learn that Earth didn't just have dangerous weather. Earth had humans who considered dangerous weather entertaining. Admiral Thrakmer paced the bridge of his flagship, his patience finally exhausted. For 6 weeks, his forces had been humiliated by a species that shouldn't even pose a challenge. The reports coming from the surface were beyond belief. His soldiers were being defeated not by advanced weapons, but by weather patterns and environmental conditions. Deploy the enhanced guard. He commanded his tactical officer. Activate all units. The enhanced guard represented the pinnacle of convergence military evolution. These weren't regular soldiers upgraded with better equipment. They were completely rebuilt beings, engineered at the genetic level to be perfect warriors. Each one was stronger than 10 normal soldiers, faster than any natural creature, and equipped with processing power that could analyze thousands of tactical scenarios per second. They had never failed to conquer a world. Down on Earth, Eleanor received the alert from orbital surveillance stations. General Hayes, we've got new contacts dropping from the convergence ships. These look different from the regular troops. General Hayes studied the satellite feeds on the main screen. The new alien soldiers moved with fluid precision that was almost hypnotic to watch. Their armor gleamed with an inner light, and their weapons hummed with energy signatures, far beyond anything the convergence had deployed before. Zethover, what are we looking at? The Kithara commander's light patterns flickered with what Elena had learned to recognize as deep concern. Enhanced guard units. They are not born, but created. Each one represents decades of genetic engineering and cybernetic enhancement. They are designed to overcome any resistance. Dr. Williams, who had been studying convergence biology, pulled up his analysis on a nearby screen. Look at this data from our previous encounters. Regular convergence. Soldiers have enhanced efficiency, but they kept basic biological functions. These new ones are something else entirely. Elena studied the genetic profiles with growing understanding. They removed even more redundancy. These aren't enhanced soldiers anymore. They're living weapons. Captain Riley Thompson, who had been coordinating Earth's defensive analysis, noticed something troubling in the data. Elena, look at their metabolic requirements. These enhanced guard units need 10 times more energy than regular convergence troops, and their systems are even more specialized. Elena realized what this meant. They made them more powerful, but also more dependent on perfect conditions. The first enhanced guard units landed in the Nevada desert, chosen specifically because the convergence believed the flat, open terrain would showcase their superiority. What they didn't anticipate was that the desert in summer was experiencing a heat wave that pushed temperatures to 125 degrees Fahrenheit. Sergeant First Class Tony Rodriguez had been waiting in the desert for 2 days. Along with his special operations team, they had been living in conditions that would require full environmental suits for most galactic species, but for desert warfare specialists, it was just another assignment. The enhanced guard soldiers moved across the sand with mechanical perfection, their sensors scanning for human forces. But within minutes, Rodriguez noticed something interesting through his binoculars. They're slowing down, he radioed to his team. The heat's affecting their systems. The enhanced guards perfected metabolisms designed for maximum efficiency. Couldn't handle the extreme heat? Their enhanced processing systems began overheating, and their optimized cooling systems, built for ship environments, couldn't cope with external temperatures that exceeded their design parameters. Rodriguez's team didn't even need to engage directly. They just waited in shaded positions while the enhanced guards struggled across the open desert. After 3 hours, half the alien units had shut down from thermal overload. In the Amazon, Lieutenant Colonel Beth Martinez faced enhanced guard units that had been specifically modified for jungle warfare. These aliens moved through dense vegetation with unnatural grace. their enhanced reflexes allowing them to navigate obstacles that would stop regular troops. But the convergence had made a crucial error. They had enhanced the soldiers' speed and reflexes while removing their ability to process unexpected sensory input. The Amazon rainforest was a symphony of sounds, smells, and movement that the enhanced guard's optimized brains couldn't filter. Martinez watched through her scope as alien soldiers began showing signs of sensory overload. Their enhanced hearing picked up every sound in the jungle, but their streamlined neural networks couldn't distinguish between threat and background noise. They began firing at shadows, jumping at falling leaves, and eventually retreating to areas of reduced sensory input that made them desensitive. Martinez reported, "The jungle is literally overwhelming their enhanced senses." The most dramatic failure occurred in the Rocky Mountains, where Major Kevin Park's Mountain Warfare Unit encountered enhanced guard troops modified for high-altitude operations. The aliens had been given enhanced lung capacity and improved oxygen processing to handle thin air. But Earth's mountains presented challenges beyond simple altitude. Weather patterns changed rapidly, creating sudden pressure variations that the enhanced guard's optimized systems couldn't adapt to quickly enough. When a routine afternoon thunderstorm moved through the area, the pressure changes caused several alien soldiers to collapse from systemic failures. Park's team, trained to fight in rapidly changing mountain conditions, simply adjusted their equipment and continued operations. They had learned to expect the unexpected. The enhanced guard, programmed for efficiency, couldn't process conditions that fell outside their parameters. Elena coordinated the global response from the command center, analyzing reports from battlefields around the world. The pattern was becoming clear. Each wave of enhancement made convergent soldiers more powerful in perfect conditions, but less able to handle Earth's chaotic reality. Dr. Williams made a breakthrough while studying captured enhanced guard equipment. "Elena, look at this. Their enhancement process doesn't just improve capabilities. It removes what they consider inefficient biological systems." Elena studied the data with growing amazement. They removed the ability to sweat because it's inefficient cooling. They eliminated redundant neural pathways because they slow processing speed. They even modified their immune systems to be more efficient against known threats. But humans evolve all those inefficiencies for a reason, Dr. Williams continued. "We sweat because sometimes we need emergency cooling. We have redundant systems because sometimes the primary ones fail. Our immune systems are inefficient because they need to handle unknown threats." Captain Thompson joined the discussion with tactical analysis from the field. The enhanced guard can't improvise when their primary systems fail. They don't have backup plans when they encounter something outside their programming. They freeze up. Elena realized they were witnessing something unprecedented in galactic military history. The convergence has spent thousands of years creating perfect soldiers, but perfection only works in perfect conditions. She pulled up footage from the current battles in Alaska. Enhanced guard units had shut down when their heating systems couldn't compensate for a sudden temperature drop. In Australia, they had been incapacitated by a dust storm that their air filtration systems couldn't handle. In the Pacific Northwest, they had retreated when rain interfered with their sensor rays. But the most telling incident occurred in Colorado, where enhanced guard soldiers encountered a group of human hikers who had gotten lost during a sudden weather change. The humans were cold, tired, and using improvised equipment to navigate in poor visibility. They were also completely functional and making steady progress towards safety. The enhanced guard soldiers, witnessing humans operating effectively in conditions that had disabled half their own unit, requested immediate evacuation. Elena laughed when she read that report. "They can't understand how we function when everything goes wrong." Zephyr, who had been monitoring convergence communications, provided additional insight. The enhanced guard are reporting impossible survival scenarios to their commanders. They cannot comprehend how humans continue operating when conditions become suboptimal. General Hayes pulled up the global tactical display. "Our casualty rates are actually lower against the enhanced guard than they were against regular troops. These perfect soldiers are more vulnerable, not less." Elena understood why. Regular conversion soldiers at least had basic biological functions. The enhanced guard are so specialized that they can't function outside their design parameters. The situation became clear when Ellen reviewed the medical reports from human forces. Soldiers who had been fighting for weeks in extreme conditions, dealing with equipment failures, injuries, and constantly changing weather, were outperforming genetically perfect warriors who had been designed specifically for combat. It's not about being stronger or faster, Ellen told the assembled command staff. It's about being able to keep going when everything falls apart. Dr. Williams nodded. Human evolution spent millions of years teaching us that nothing ever goes according to plan. We learn to expect failure and keep functioning anyway.